is Nikola Basta and welcome to the Machine Learning Serbia podcast.
Hello everyone, my name is Manja.
I'm honored to introduce our special guest today, Dimitar Dilov. He is a Chief Risk Officer of Raiffeisen Bank. Hello, Dimitar.
Hello.
Can you tell us something more about yourself?
Well, just briefly, I'm working as a Chief Risk Officer for Raiffeisen Bank Serbia. It's already my 1.5 year in the. I'm already 1.5 year in the bank. Before my assignment in Raiffeisen Serbia, I've been in Raiffeisen Group for nearly 15 years, mainly in the area of risk management. By nationality, I'm Bulgarian. So looking forward for this podcast to contribute.
Yeah, great. And also, if somebody on the street would ask you the same question, what you would say about your occupation and what you do at Raiffeisen?
Well, as Chief Risk Officer, so basically we're taking care about risk, as it's implied by the name. But this is a very broad area, and if I have to specify in just a few words, so risk management creates value in three different ways: protecting revenues, preventing losses, or improving processes. So this is what we are doing in our daily job.
Well, thank you for that answer. So, what is your background and how does it help you to become who you are today, and how does it help you to become successful?
Well, in terms of background, so education-wise, I have a master's degree in finance. This is my major area of competences. But also, I have a second master's degree, which is in applied mathematics. And also executive MBA program, which I obtained abroad. So the
Vice Factor of Knowledge.
Yes, but also from a professional experience, I started working in different industries. My first occupation was not banking, but rather on the retail side, retail business side. Then also was working as an accountant, and then this was my kind of childhood dream to become a banker in a way, also because maybe I have some family members with a banking background, and here I am in banking.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like my whole family, they're all in banking, so it's funny to hear about that.
Banking whole life.
Yeah. And so the next question I would like to ask you is how and why did you get in the risk? You already mentioned about that because your family is everybody is in banking. And can you tell us also how is that correlated to machine learning?
Well, when I studied, for example, I just go back when I studied my bachelor study, I was impressed by quantitative methods, and especially on the portfolio theory, being more specific on the capital asset pricing model. And these are very quantitative models, and they demand a lot of mathematical skills in order to understand them and to apply. So at that time, it was not very popular subject because some people were scared by those long formulas and to understand the concept. In these days, it's not so difficult to apply the models because there is a technology which easily can be applied for solving such problems. And then this was my first kind of first love in quantitative finances, and then I wanted to go more in the risk management area, where there are a lot of such methods which are applied in the daily work. And these days, machine learning is becoming very popular as a topic, not only in finance and banking, but everywhere around. And I see it as a kind of big potential in the machine learning and artificial intelligence applied for solving daily challenges which in the bank we're facing. If I can give an example of such applications, we are having, for example, in risk management use cases where we want to apply machine learning techniques like detection of certain signals which can give us prediction of behavior of a customer. So we are using certain yes, we are using certain inputs which we're studying to see how they correlate, or they can give us some hint to predict customer behavior in future. So there is application on those models. And I'm personally also, because when I was studying, we were using R as a platform for applying different modeling data and so on. Of course, Excel was also popular these days. It's still the most popular, maybe the most popular tool. But also R as kind of open source platform. So I already started kind of refreshing my skills on R, and also acquiring new skills which are demanded these days. Although my job doesn't require to be so much involved in on that level of coding. I subscribe myself for different online courses. I don't know if I can tell those platforms.
Sure. Yes, you can.
Okay, then on the EDX, for example, or Data Camp, where I'm practicing. So very useful these days. You can acquire knowledge. From
it is important
everywhere.
to stay in shape.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to your colleagues who are developing the models or coding, then you should be on the same page at some point. I cannot follow them by with the same speed and quality maybe, but just to be to have a better understanding on those.
So from time to time you need to get your hands dirty. So.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So when you spoke about your daily occupation, what is your daily role? Like as a chief risk officer, what do you do daily, and what tools do you use?
Well, as a chief risk officer, my function is more on the, by definition, is more on the supervisor, on supervision. We have a great team in the bank who is taking care of different risk topics. We also have a very strong modeling team, because this is the topic in a way of our discussion, not to go in other areas. Referring to the tools which I'm personally using, as I mentioned, Excel is one of the most popular. You're using Excel to fast number crunching, but also we are now switching to different platforms where we can, for example, on the business intelligence side, like Click, Tableau, our choice. We are using a lot such platform, but also with the Power BI, for example, for handling data and having data insights. I appreciate such platforms because they give you this self-service experience, so you don't depend on support of other departments, but you can switch to the you can connect to the data and play.
And you can play with the data, and you can see the anomalies before doing any modeling. So
yes, sure. They also have a very good kind of embedded machine learning models, even for non-supervised models like clustering. They have some embedded clustering models. So I find them very useful.
Tableau pretty well handled that one.
In the past, of course, I mean, in the let's say 15 years ago, of course, I started with the Visual Basic or with SQL, like data processing, languages. So at university R.
Yes.
These days, of course, in the bank, we are having some solutions which are not open source, like SAS, for example. But we also now want to give colleagues and newcomers to use open source platforms, tools like R or Python.
Yeah.
So because at the end of the day, students or the young graduates, when they come to work in a bank, for example, they face this topic when they are forced to work with certain tools which they are not familiar with.
Yeah.
But on the other hand side, what we have noticed, actually there is a very good knowledge on specifically R, for example, from the faculty of mathematics. The students who are coming from the faculty of mathematics, they have excellent knowledge on R, and they can do amazing stuff with R. So we're having now R installed for their computers, and also in future for the ones who know Python, we're going to allow them using it.
Yeah. But R is commonly used on universities, so that's commonly used, and in industry, probably Python is a language that is even more used. But you have more people who really know R, so that's probably that's the reason, because they teach them on the different universities.
Yeah, this is also one kind of challenge which we are facing in a way, that because there is I mean, it can be a very good and nice model if some developed by, let's say, a brilliant mathematician, but in the commercial world, we need those models to be kind of implemented in something tangible, which we can give you some cash flow stream, or
be flexible and scalable in the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you need to resolve some issue in the company, some business problem, and then use modeling as a tool.
Yes. So this is one of the topics which we should work on, and people to be aware of. So if you're data scientist, you should be aware that in a commercial organization, there is it depends from organization to organization, but then you can at the beginning you have the freedom of developing different models and proof of concepts and so on. But at some point, some of these models should find an application in real life.
Yes.
They shouldn't remain as only kind of theory or a very nice prototype. But the crucial thing is to make them useful.
Yeah, we agree totally. Do you agree with?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so for the next question, you were proceeding with.
It's your turn.
Yeah. So probably. So you talk about a lot about what you do on daily basis. So you mentioned even your challenges, but if you can choose one of them, what is the biggest challenge as a chief risk officer?
Well, for me, always at least until now, based on my experience, the biggest challenge is culture change. So, and if you refer to if you put it in the context of adoption of new technologies or new skills, so this is one of the biggest challenges, especially in situations in which people are in their comfort zone, and so you have to kind of show them in a way that okay, there is a need of change because the environment is changing, there is a demand for new skills, for new technologies to be applied, and it's very difficult, especially in cases in which people are successful in their roles so far, so there is no kind of anything visible which shows that there is need of change. Usually the change is easily done when there is a necessity. There is this trigger, so because we have to do a change because either your financial results are bad or in any means your performance is bad. Then in this case the change is the need of change is obvious.
Yeah,
but if everything goes fine and then there is no kind of major issues, it's very difficult to impose change and to explain that you're not doing something for the sake of doing changes.
If you're waiting things to be bad, it's already late for the change.
Yes.
And banking is probably one of the most industries that are not adjusted to the changes.
Conservative.
There is this kind of perception of banking for sure. Yes. Yeah. In general, I can agree. What I can say for our organization is that it's very adaptive. So we are we are welcoming a lot of new changes. We are very friendly for new technologies or something which can move us forward. So to be ahead of the competition, for example, on adopting new technologies or new skills for the employees. So from this perspective, we are flexible and supportive for the new technologies, new skills. And I can give you an example in my own area. What we are doing is we want to attract more and more people with quantitative and technology skills, and particularly with the mathematical skills, people who can have the understanding of data, how to model it, how they can squeeze value out of it, how they can derive a meaning of out of data.
How to get from mathematics, a lot of people don't understand mathematics, and how to write it down in the language that everybody can understand. Probably like business language, you can say. How
to find the business purpose of all of it, all the data, algorithms, and everything.
Yeah, it's this is one of also another challenge. For example, to kind of these days is very popular the term T-shaped people. You know, so you have someone who is very strong in one area, but also can easily cover others. And I'm reading some articles about the data scientists and what kind of people you should target or hire to join your team. And when you see that, you need the mathematical skills. If you imagine a Venn diagram, there are a lot of these circles, and then when they overlap, this is the desired kind of outcome, or the combination of skills in this case. So if you put the technology skills, quantitative skills, presentation skills, and if you can call the communication or social skills.
Yes, and probably domain knowledge from that specific.
Yes, domain business knowledge. So and these guys who are in the middle where the circles overlap, then these are the so-called unicorns. So this is very difficult to find such profiles. So there are different ways. You can simply acquire them from the market, or you can grow. Of course, growing them from the organization, it's a longer process. It's more difficult. It's more difficult in a way, but in my view, has more benefits because you give also perspective to the people from the organization. But then here comes you have to convince those people that yes, you're a good mathematician, good kind of technical guy, but if you acquire, let's say, business skills in addition, some presentation skills later, so you can transmit all this wide knowledge on the quantitative methods to executive board or to the business colleagues to create meaning of all this data and what you're doing. So this would be perfect.
Yeah, probably the reason why you currently now in the whole world you only have 2% of people who are actual data scientists. That's
The
the
real
that you
ones,
mentioned, who have all of that skills together. So that's probably the reason, because someone has technical skills, someone has business skills, and they lack of from one another. So it takes a lot of time to gain that skills.
Exactly.
But it's possible. So, but when you find that kind of people, that's really precious.
That's the reason why they call it the sexiest job of 2019. It's hard to find all the skills in one.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's very interesting what you mentioned. Sexiest or most attractive.
Yeah.
Let's use the most attractive job. I remember it was in 2009 for my birthday. I got the kind of a colleague of mine put some kind of in an interesting way article from Financial Times, and it was mentioned that because I was working at Risk that time, I just started. Risk management is the new sexy job in the town.
Yeah.
So this was in 2009, I think, after the financial crisis. So now, 10 years later, we have a new kind of most attractive job.
You go out in the pub and say, "I'm a data scientist."
So, I mean, So,
okay, thank you for your answer. So, can you tell us who or what has had the most impact on you to become the person you are today? Life event, mentors, family, maybe.
Well, family for sure. It's a combination. So I cannot say it was one event or one person. I mean, in my life, I had. I met different people. They influenced me in a different way on the event side. But I think what kind of added value was the diversity. So if I think for my kind of development so far, I've been living for more than 15 years outside my home country. So I've been living in 6 different countries but not as just for a few days, but for either for work or for study. So this in my view, this enrich such an experience can enrich every person. And you meet different cultures, different style of working. You have to adjust. So even in some cases, if you are appointed to be in a position, whatever, some superior position, doesn't matter, then you enter in a team which is well established. So you have to adjust to this team to some point.
To learn something new and to adjust in the same time. Yeah.
Yes, I think this influenced me the most.
The school of life, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah. And meeting a lot of countries and cultures and everything. So that's nice. And for the next question that we would really like you to answer is, where do you think that this field of data science, sexiest job, or machine learning is going? So in the future.
I mean, if I refer to banking, for example, I mean, just to put it in the context of data science. Sure. in banking, I was reading, I follow one blog of Chris Skinner, maybe you've heard of Chris Skinner. He's an influencer in financial thinking, and he was kind of describing one of his talks with a banker, and then in a nutshell, what happened actually was that the banker was saying that they were implementing kind of artificial intelligence in their work, and then Mr. Skinner asked, so okay, how many jobs or how how much cost you saved in your with this exercise. And you say, well, we didn't save any jobs or costs. And why did you do it? And what is it? Well, now, then here what it comes. He said, well, we're using all our people with the business knowledge. Instead of being engaged with the daily routines, they are engaged in training machines. And this artificial intelligence, being a model or I don't know, machines, doesn't matter. So the profile of people is changing. And in my view, the data science job will support such development. So the data scientists they will develop certain models. Those models need to be trained. And they can be trained by learning or by someone who knows the processes, the products, and so on. Yes.
Yeah.
So, so in the past we were calling it a user acceptance test in a way. So you have a product, you have to challenge this product or to see when it crashes. So and then you fix it. So in a similar manner, those models can be trained by someone who has experience.
Yeah,
So
you can probably say like you are making from a banker who has probably 20 or 25 years of experience, his experience adding to the model, so he will be helpful for others who are coming in the bank.
Yeah.
Because he cannot help all of them who are coming in, so this way, some kind of way it can help.
We can say that machines becoming a new intern.
Yes.
A new interns, the interns of the future.
I mean, this I agree. I don't know, to be honest, how fast this will come, especially on the Balkans. So I mean, we are reading a lot of articles. What's happening with the financial companies in the Western Europe, and how they are replacing operations with different machine or models and so on. Because it depends at the end on it depends a lot on the surrounding environment. Because you cannot be fully digital or automated if the environment is not such. It's very, very difficult. So if you cannot connect, for example, to some public registries, there are no APIs for this. So this is not so easy in a way. So there must be also the environment must be as such. So to allow this to accommodate this change.
That's a very good point. And you need to have a data. So it's not like you have a magic wand and then you can make it right. So you need to have a data. You have to have an environment. So we will see how it will happen in the Balkans. But I think that for the first time we have a really good opportunity because we need knowledge and people who will try to make that models work, so we don't need a lot of investment in terms of infrastructure and so on. So it could be a really good opportunity for the whole region.
We are, in my view, somehow because I don't know if I'm not a big expert on this, but what I followed is, for example, if you take Africa, for example, or China, but let's take Africa as an example. So the penetration of the financial services was very low. For example, cards, payments, and so on, because there was no infrastructure, no technology, and so on. And now they are directly jumping on mobile payments and mobile banking. So they don't need cards in a way. So similar things go in China, for example. So we have certain advancement in a certain legacy, but surely data science and technology will play a role in the development in the financial industry on the Balkans in general, also in Serbia in particular.
Cool. Thank you for the answer. So can you share with us a couple of use cases which you have done in the bank with your team, how you solve some problems?
Well, I can say two which come to my mind. So one is implemented, another is on the way to be done. For example, at the beginning I mentioned detecting certain signals where we can define a customers performance. It's called early warning indicators or early warning signals. So what we are doing is basically their inputs of different behavior data of customers, where we put it in a model which defines based on certain patterns from the past to define the future performance of these customers in terms of credit quality, for example. And this is on the way to be done. Then the second one is something for which we are using big data in order to find also patterns of customer behavior in order to provide them better service.
To be proactive.
Yes. So in a way, so these are two examples. Unfortunately, I cannot disclose details. They're commercially sensitive, but these are overall applications of those potentially machine learning models. And for example, another example might be developing different scoring models where logistic regression is used as a major kind of a method for proving these models.
Our listeners love to hear about those use cases, because then they can shape their own way how to get into the science and what Kaggle competitions to tackle, what GitHub codes to look for. So thank you for those insights. And what do you think about Belgrade becoming a new Silicon Valley, and how banks are catching up with all these tech changes, from your opinion?
Okay, I can split the question in two parts. For example, on if Belgrade is a Silicon Valley, so it's this is a statement which, in my view, is my personal opinion. First of all, they are very bright people in Serbia, and especially in the field of data science and technology. There is no doubt about this. But just to say, to be a Silicon Valley, knowing the magnitude of this of this place, it's in my view it's overstated, because you need to have as I mentioned, the environment around. You need to have the market. And if we think the whole combined Balkan market, not only Serbia, I don't know, we have a couple of millions, and competing with markets there are hundreds of millions, and this is the first prerequisite. The second, for example, to see how many students are coming every year from the field which can be qualified to work potentially in Silicon Valley, or I don't know, in technology, let's put it this way. So the number of students is not so big actually. So the demand for such workforce is significant. So give you an example.
There's a huge discrepancy between demand and supply, and it's a problem which we will face definitely in the future.
I give you an example. We are having permanent internship program for people with quantitative skills, and it goes for 6 months. So we can extend it more if there is mutual interest. And for we got students from Faculty of Mathematics and in Belgrade, and I mean, we like, for example, two of them very much. We wanted them to stay with us and to continue. Unfortunately, they left.
Yes.
Yeah, one in Germany, another in France. So, and then this is just both of them, fortunately they went to study. So maybe one day they come back, or maybe go or continue further.
Yes.
developing their career. And this is a big challenge in my view for all the countries in the regions, not only for Belgrade. And simply the bigger financial centers, like in Europe, London, for example, for fintechs. Germany is very innovative. Austria is among also top innovative countries. So these Nordic countries as well. So it's very difficult to compete with this kind of lifestyle and the Balkan lifestyle. So this is the first place the problem. And it will be very challenging for the Balkan countries to compete for the retention of talents.
And the youth, yeah.
Yeah.
The brain drain is definitely an issue for
Yes.
all the countries. But both of us think that it can be tackled if you approach as a society, as a country, and as the whole region systematically to that issue.
Yeah.
Because you have to provide the value for the youth here, and to show them it can be possible to live here as in the West, if you have knowledge and if you're proactive, if you're working on yourself daily. So I think it's our both thinking.
Yeah, because we visited a lot of countries and we visit also US, and it's totally different. But for myself, I had an opportunity to be in US, especially in Silicon Valley, and I refused because at this point I really love to be in this region and I love what I do, so it doesn't matter where I am currently. So I can go to those countries, but I don't need to live there, so I can go back and forth.
Yes.
So I think that it needs probably a lot of time so that new students can see that you can do differently.
It is possible.
That it's possible, and they probably need role models for that. So also that part of that I'm always doing about that I'm trying to be a role model for younger students who are coming, so that they can see that it can be done differently.
Sure. In this connected world, you're right. So actually, you can perform your job from your home in Belgrade and working for a company based in another country. This is fully legitimate statement, and I agree. But just the point that there is such a trend, for people leaving the region. And the second part of the question, if the banks are catching up. So what I see, for example, based on my researches and experience, is that it depends on from market to market. But definitely, on the one hand side, you have if you talk about financial industry, you have fintechs or startups which are very small. They might have some bright ideas, but they don't have the customer scale. So banks are the one who are having the customer base. So it is very difficult from a challenger to kind of grow so fast in order to compete with traditional banks in the region for the time being. This is what I'm discussing. So we see a lot of such fintechs growing in the Western world, where also the regulations are different. For example, in Serbia, if you're not a bank, you cannot be engaged in lending, for example. So it's not so easy. It's not so easy.
Especially peer-to-peer, it rises a lot in especially Germany, peer-to-peer lending and stuff like that.
So it depends on, but definitely the banks in general, I can talk. They're catching up, and they realize that they need to do something in order to change their business models.
Cool. That's really good. And the next question that is maybe the most interesting is, so what is the craziest thing that you have ever done in your life?
Okay, so it's an interesting question. I don't know if I'm a crazy person, but I mean I give you an example. It's not one single event or a single point of time, but this was when I was working as full-time employee in Vienna, in Raiffeisen, and then at that time I also had at that time she was 1 year old, my daughter, and then started the executive MBA at the same time for 2 years, traveling to UK every month for 4 days per month, and studying and submitting materials, and this was 2 years of craziness. Not only one.
How did you manage
event.
to handle all of that
Yeah.
stress
Yes,
and
yes.
obligations and
Probably in one hand you had a book, on the other hand you have your daughter.
Yes, something similar.
Okay, thank you for the honest answer.
And also at that time, sorry, it's very good support of my wife,
And that's where the family counts as,
Yes.
as a big support in
Yes.
life. Can you tell us what is your favorite book or life-saving tip that can help our listeners to become better in what they do and to shape their future, both personally and professionally?
I mean, for both movies and books, for example, I like unconventional stuff. For example, the favorite, not kind of finance or mathematical related, is Catch-22.
Catch-22, okay.
Yeah, it's Joseph Heller. There is also a series, I think, in one of the HBO or HBO. Yeah, but the book is better than the movie. Although the movie at the beginning also creates you the feeling about the book itself. So it's crazy stuff. And then the other one is I like Nassim Taleb, he's a professor at he's also a financial guy, but also teaching at New York University. The Black Swan, for example.
Black Swan. Okay.
So it's a book written about mathematics without any formulas. So it's describing certain mathematical topics in a plain language, which people can understand.
Relate, yeah.
We will leave the links in the comments when we post this podcast. And about some life-saving tip for the younger people who are trying to get into the industry, how to shape them, how to navigate all this stress, new trends, catching up with all these tech changes.
Well, definitely, I mean, it depends from which area the students are coming. So whether they are purely mathematicians or technology guys. So coming to a commercial organization, they should be prepared for sometimes cultural shock. So sometimes it's for some of them it's not easy to cope with this. For some organization they're like working hours from 8 to 5, or some of them don't have the flexible working hours. Even if they're flexible working hours, there might be some challenges with well-established colleagues. So maybe the environment is more competitive. So these are things which are more on the soft skills side. So to be prepared for such challenges at the first place. So second is they should find a way how to make meaning of what they've studied at university. And it's very good, in my view, to have during their study there are different internship programs. One of them we have not only in the risk area in the bank, but also in other areas there are internship programs. So during the study it's good to have one or another trial with different industries. So let's say this summer I work in a bank to see how they can how I can use my data science skills or technology skills in a bank. Is it a good environment or not? Then next summer I go, I don't know, to a retailer or to a telecom company, and then to see which one fits better. Maybe at the end they say, okay, I want to be a scientist, I want to stay at university, do researches, and that's it. Also fair point, that's fine. But just during the study, they have to find which area is best for them, Just even yesterday, I had a meeting with one of our ex-trainees. We were talking about how to improve the internship program. So she was telling me, well, we need more mentoring, for example, during the internship program. Point taken. So we're going to work on this. Also, she told me, look, I also want to try something else, not only banking. Also, fair point. She moves forward, so during the study is a time when the students should experiment,
explore and find
explore and find something new. And and then basically based on their targeted industry, for example, or job, they should do some research to see what are the required skills. There are a lot of sites now, for example, in finance, there are a lot of them telling you what kind of set of skills you need in order to work as, I don't know, like quantitative finance guy in the bank. So you need mathematics, but you also need Python and R. You need to know some regulations, but this comes with the time. So, or if you want to work something else, then you do this research and see which skills are required and which skills you have, kind of gap analysis to see where you stand, and always be prepared. So not say, okay, I've heard this job is good, okay, let's give a try, but then then the disappointment comes, and then it's always be prepared for whatever you start.
Thank you very much for being our guest today. For the end, we just want to see how can our listeners contact you or follow you, or how can they reach you?
Well, I have a public LinkedIn profile, which is the only social media I'm using. So I'm Facebook. I closed my account years ago, or still not. It's not active. Someone telling me that my name is appearing somewhere, but I'm not using it. Mainly using professional network like LinkedIn. Nothing against Facebook or something, but simply not using it.